Hey guys, it is me. It has been a while. I must agree. I'm sorry. but a lot of it has just really been because I've been busy. and so, busy doing a lot of stuff. Let me see if I can get a better angle. Um, anyway, so tonight I was supposed to be working. Night shift, of course. If you have not known, I've been on night shift since I want to say March, April, and I've also been in residency. Hold on. And so, one of my coworkers, really a good friend of mine, we're both in residency together. But anyway, so we're both like messaging, like, it takes a lot, y'all, to be a nurse, especially nowadays. It seems as though when I've been working for this company that it's just been kind of up and down. And the job itself is like very taxing. Y'all know how it is in ICU. It is very taxing. There's like special people that work in ICU. I love all of them. But here's the thing, it is so taxing and tiring. Even with the two patients, it may sound like, oh, you only have two patients. What are you complaining about? And it's not necessarily a complaint. It's just that every area, every unit, L&D, five, we call it 5 South, but Med Surge, PCU, RCU. It just really depends on the patients, really, like the patient load. And so, anyway, since this is low tonight, and so a few of us got put on standby, and so I haven't necessarily been flexed. I've probably been on standby like 3 or 4 times. And just within this, I would say like 6, 7 months of working in the ICU. And it's grown more in the summer than any of the months. And you would think that would be kind of different because everybody's taking vacations. But since this is low, so that's great. Like, we don't want anyone, in the ICU. But should you have to be there, we want nurses to be there. And so, that's my whole schmill on all of that. So anyway, I just got on here to kind of just update you on what is going on in my life, and just having this free time, because really I don't, and I slept all day, and so I'm probably going to be up until 3, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But it is like not even 6 o'clock in the afternoon. Usually I'm ready by 5:30, and I'm just kind of waiting around. One, if I'm going to be on standby or flexed off. Haven't been flexed off this whole time, but really standby, and those are two different things. And so if you're a nurse, you know what flex and standby mean. So, if you're not a nurse, flex is where you are not going to be called in. Standby is where you have like a period of time, usually 8 hours. So, if we are supposed to be starting our job at 7, then they have until 3, whether that's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. So, we're up waiting. Some of us are up waiting. And so to be called in, and then the ICU, the rules are a lot different. If we just get called in at 5 in the morning, we have to come. And that, to me, when I looked at protocol, it was like the last 4 hours the shift is supposed to handle. But I guess in the ICU, y'all, it's just different. And if they need the help, they need the help. So if they call you and you're supposed to have been there that day, if it is for an ICU patient, you have to come in. It does matter the time, but if it's the time you're supposed to be there, 7 to 7, 7 p to 7 a, you have to come in. There's just no excuse. And so that's what we signed up for. And so emergencies happen. We can't plan those. And so it is what it is. So anyway, I probably haven't spoken to you guys since April. We've been on vacation. We've been working, getting these kids out of school into summer programs. Been doing a lot for the church. This is what I was like so excited to talk about, y'all, because even just behind the scenes, doing what I do for the church and for God's ministry, it has been just a beautiful summer for me. And though I was so busy, it was like, thank you, Jesus, for the opportunity to be able to do what I do and to love what I do. I love working with children. If nobody knows that about me, that's one thing that is very like close to my heart. It's very close to my heart. And so, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was what we did for Vacation Bible School. And a lot of it just had to do with just seeing the church come together for these children. Y'all, when I say it was a beautiful thing, it really was. Now, don't get me wrong, kids are kids. And it's, to me, I've always said, it's not necessarily are they bad, it's how bad are they. So a lot of kids can have a lot of troubled backgrounds. We're not getting kids that just have parents, both parents in the home and stuff. We have a lot of kids that have lost their mother or father, or both are not in the home. But the whole point of Vacation Bible School, y'all, was to show these children that, number one, you do have an ultimate father. If you don't have a father in the home, if you don't have a mother in the home, you have an ultimate father. And this father loves you, and he will never leave you. And so that was the gist of that. And so, y'all, my Bible app going off. And so that was the whole point of Vacation Bible School, and for this summer. And it had been a long time since we had done anything like this at the church. Everybody has gotten busy, especially around that COVID time. It was things that were shut down, but we were still going to church. Church was not shut down, but we were just basically having to cut back on visiting other churches and things like that. And now it's starting to pick back up again, and we're so grateful. There were so many people that showed up, y'all, and showed up for these kids. That's the most important part. Because number one, God was definitely there. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And then there was men and women there, showed up for these kids. And you just got to see their hearts at work, how they taught them. Even when we did arts and crafts, it was just so beautiful. And me just being behind the scenes, because there was two of us. There was me and then another evangelist that was the host over it. And so we were hosting this Vacation Bible School, and it was called Jesus of the Sea. And really, it was just Bible stories. We went for 3 days. 2 days were our lessons, arts and crafts, music. We had different classes. We had a lunch period. It was amazing. And we had a day shift and a night shift. And I recommend, if you can just do one time, do one time. But you know how kids are in the summer, especially around the end of the summer. They're doing boot camps, and they're, going to school for 2 days, and they've got, band camp and all this other stuff that they're doing. And so they aren't available during like the beginning, like the earlier hours of the day. So we had to, compensate and try to fit everybody in. So we did 2 sessions a day for 2 days, and then we did a big party at the end. Amazing. There was 20 plus kids showing up, small all the way to 16, 17. And then when it came to teachers, older teachers, young teachers, everybody just really came together to teach these kids. Everybody had fun. We did have a few, that were just kind of, being a little rowdy. But here's the thing, y'all. If you can't work with kids, don't work with kids. Don't work around kids. Pray about it. Get strength on that, because a lot of us weren't raised, with the proper background of a godly, mother and father. And so these kids are already broken. They're already going through a lot. They're already stressed out. They're already dealing with a lot at home. And then you have people, at the church house. You can't do it your way when you're dealing with the ministry of God. I don't care what kind of ministry. I don't care if it's women's, men's, youth, usher board, the deacon council. If you are dealing with anything to do with God, he needs to be all up and through there. You need to have the spirit within you, because what will happen is you will become impatient. You will start doing things your way, and it's not justified by God. But any time that you're dealing with somebody else's kids, you know, you have to be patient. You have to learn how to talk with them and learn how to deal with the issue, whatever it is, because it's really rooted and deeply rooted in something else. And a lot of us have been traumatized. A lot of us is going through some things. And so we have to be patient, just like we would want God to be patient with us. And so that's just my little spiel on if you're in the ministry of Jesus Christ. You got to have his spirit, because you suffer not the children to come unto him, but you can stop them from learning because you want to do it your way. There's nothing wrong with structure, nothing wrong with accountability, responsibility, especially at the ages we had. There was such a variety of ages. That to me, I was just so grateful for. And but at the same time, you got to deal with those challenges as they come. And when you ain't been saved all your life, you know, some of these kids can turn you right back on around, and you're not trying to go back there. You're not trying to go back out there. You're not trying to do that. And you're not trying to get them to turn around and go back that way. So the whole process, y'all, in any kind of ministry, whatever it is you got to pray first. You can't just join every ministry and you haven't, you ain't got no strength in that. And that's just out of love. We just gonna say it out of love, because we can cause strife amongst the congregation when we just not rooted and rooted, you know, just in Jesus Christ. And that can be hard sometimes, because what one parent may do, another parent does differently, and we don't judge, you know, in that category. That's Jesus. We don't have a heaven or a hell to put nobody in. I barely have a house to put people in, let alone a heaven and a hell. And so I got to be careful how I come at anybody's child or anybody's parents. But number one, it's out of love and understanding. And I'm going to call your mama. I'm going to call your mama. I'm going to call your daddy. I'm going to call whoever I got to call to get you straightened up. But there's ways around that, y'all. Okay? There's ways around that. And then number two that I'm going to say about this, and I'm going to leave it alone, is that whenever you have somebody coming to a group setting, to something that the kids are invited to, come yourself. If you going to let your child go, you should go as well. You want to know what your child is learning. You want to know if that child is actually receiving, especially if he's saved. And so this wasn't just, you know, an invitation just for the children. It was open to the floor. We could have had classes for adults if we had enough come, because we were just that prepared. And so at the end of the day, y'all, it was a success. It was in my eyes. And so I'm just elated about that. I'm excited about that. Though I am a nurse, though I love God's people and all of that, I take time to study my word to be a better godly person. Because at the end of the day, at the career I'm in, it takes professionalism, but also you have to have a heart to do this thing. You can't just do it for the money. Because I see a lot of videos out there where it's like a day in my life, a week in my life, and they may speak like maybe one or two sentences about Jesus, and in my heart I'm like, that's all I want to talk about, honestly. Because everything that I do is for him. Everything I show up to is to make sure I bring the light. And so even when I'm working with my patients, y'all, they can see that as well. And a lot of them are intubated and sedated, but those families feel the love. I never walk out of a room and I see family members there. My patient is out of it. I'm taking good care of my patient. They see that. But to go that extra mile and be like, is there anything that you need? Any ice water? Do you need a blanket, a warm blanket? Because you're going to be in here with my patient. This is your family member, but at the same time, I would rather take care of the both of y'all and know you're comfortable. Not to say that I got to go above and beyond like I would the patient, but to let them know that I not only care about the patient, but I care about them as well. That it's not even to me above and beyond. It's just, being who you are if you truly care about people. Because at the end of the day, I ain't always used to be a nurse. And so I just work customer service. And so maybe that's just, how I just am as a person. But I know it's the Spirit of the Lord to not just talk to somebody that you're taking care of, but also the people around them. You never know what kind of situation you'll be in, but you don't do anything for a reward on this side. I'm going to just say that. The Bible's very clear. Everything we do is for the Lord, and it is not to gain anything. It is to just show the love of God. It don't miss nobody in the Bible when it says to love your enemy. Pray for those that persecute you. He's very clear. He's not only saying like, love me with all thine heart and soul, but love everybody else around you. He said, how can you say you love me whom you have not seen, and you hate your brother and sisters in Christ who you see every day? That's Jesus. Like, that's deep if you really think about it. There ain't nobody he missed on this earth. You should love everybody the same. And I mean it in a sense of godly love. Because I love my husband differently than I love, everybody else in the world. Because my husband is who God has given to me to be with me. We are one. So that's totally different than, everyone else in the world. But as far as godly love, showing that godly love, that light, everybody should receive that same love. I shouldn't love somebody because of their skin tone differently than the other skin tone. And y'all know Marley, look Mexican, white, and all kinds of stuff. And to me, I would be silly to teach her that it depends on color. God chose who she was going to be. That wasn't my decision. And so at the end of the day, like, she doesn't see color. Like, her cousins and stuff is all kinds of different colors. Like, we don't teach that over here. We don't teach that at all. Like, everything is beautiful. And God said everything he made was good. So I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, I'm going to treat my, black patients different than, no, that's not how God is. That's not how it is in heaven. It's not segregated in heaven. That's only the world's way of thinking. But anyway, so I got called off, and not called off, on standby. Let me fix that, because I'm gonna be up for a little minute, and I'm gonna study, and I'm gonna take these clothes off. But I just wanted to look professional while I was on this camera and just say what I've been up to. Now I'm trying to like smidget it into like a little, where it's not too much, but it's not going to be edited. Not going to put any music on this. I'm just really getting straight to the point. It's really just been like 6 months. Had an amazing summer. We just got back from a vacation, and we really needed it, and it was really just for us, like me and hubby. And so I recommend you do that, because we work a lot. And we work overnight. And so I would say that within all the working and everything that we have done, y'all see my little box fan, because I be hot. We got one in the room, one in the living room. We probably like have 3 or 4. And so anyway, so don't laugh at my little box fan, because my heater on too. You probably can't even see it, but my heater on too. I don't know what I want. I don't know. And so basically, we've been in residency. We meet up about every 3 months, I want to say, and we'll have like 1 or 2 classes for that week. A lot of us are getting prepared for projects, because we have to do the end of the year project. Our residency is like grouped with a lot of graduates that have come in through the hospital around the time we graduated, which was in December. So from December all the way up until almost April, because see, we don't graduate until, we'll graduate December, but our residency isn't over until next April. And so I'm not really sure how all that works. I just know it's not going to be over till next April. So what we're doing in our residency now is getting ready for group projects. We also have like a some kind of paper we have to write. I'll have to look that up. And so, and get that prepared. And so I think that's due like in the next couple of months here. And so there's a group of us that are in the ICU that are in residency, and there's 3 of us. I'm so excited because they have great personalities. We work well together, even just in the ICU, just kind of communicating back and forth. 2 of us work on night shift, 1 of us work on day shift, and so we kind of see both sides of the ICU. And so when we do our project together, I really want it to be strong, y'all, because we have different eyes looking in, and the project is really just going to be like a peer review. And so, but it's going to be for our unit, and basically we're just kind of breaking down anything that would be like needed to talk about, like if you know anything about CAUTI, CLAPSI, anything like that. But we really want to like make sure it's an issue for the ICU that needs to be fixed, or any kind of ideas that is have been overlooked for our unit. And so I'm so excited for that, because y'all, they are diligently working hard. If you work in the ICU, you just have that mindset to work diligently and very detailed. And so I know I'm a detailed person. I just am. And so I know they are as well, because you have to be. You have to be. It's a lot overwhelming starting off as a new nurse, but when you've had experience and stuff, it becomes easier, because it helps you to understand what the experience you had. You may not have had specific experience. Like, let's just give an example for titration. If you never really had an experience with heparin, but you have the protocol for it, you know what heparin does to the body, you know why the person may need heparin, what's the diagnosis, and then you have that protocol sitting in front of you. I would recommend printing off any protocol that you do not know until you get familiar with it, and just put it in a binder with the rest of the other stuff you don't know. Because as a new nurse, these things you're going to see again, especially in your practice. And in order for you to get the experience, yeah, it's great to ask questions, ask other nurses, like, hey, what am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to be doing? But it's good for you to, practice what would, your style of doing nursing. Because I see a lot of new nurses freaking out because they've never done this one thing, like whether it's insulin drip, or they kind of freak out. But if you have that protocol in front of you, the system we work on is Epic, and so it kind of just, you put in all the information you need. So let's just say patient comes in with a DKA, you can put in the sugar check that you put in into the MAR, and if it says to change the dose to this, then you change the dose to that. And then if it says leave the dose alone, you leave the dose alone. And a lot of our DKA patients, you want the anion gap to be closed. And I believe the anion gap is between 10 to 20. And then you want your CO2 to be down, because the patient is in metabolic acidosis that we know, DKA is metabolic acidosis. So you want the CO2 to be normal, because you don't want them acidotic. And then they'll have other protocols like G5LR, or so it doesn't drop that sugar too low. It'll kind of keep it steady. It'll tell you to put it on 100, 150, whatever the doctor would like the drip to be on, depending on the patient. And then you just kind of go through those drips. You don't have to call the doctor every time you get a glucose. If something is just very dramatically off, the only time I'm calling is when the gap is closed twice. You want the gap to be closed twice, and you want the CO2 to be, within normal range, and then you want the glucose to be within normal range. And that's usually like under 120, and so forth. And so and you want to keep that gap closed. And so usually in those protocols, they will have where you can print it off. So you don't have to always like, hey, what do I do next? Like freaking out, because you get about 3 months of orientation. Maybe, some people may get more, some people may get less, depending on their experience. But it doesn't mean that you'll necessarily have every single patient you'll have in the ICU. Like, you may get orientation, but you may never get a DKA patient until you're off orientation. Because eventually you'll get these people, eventually. But you may never have to give a heparin drip on orientation. But then all of a sudden you're off orientation, and that's your first patient you get is a patient on a heparin drip. And so what you're doing is you're printing off your protocol, and then you're making sure you follow those guidelines, but also, you have backup. You have other nurses that can help you and kind of pull you into your thinking mode, because sometimes it's not by the book, and that's why you have to call. Because maybe that patient is continuing high, and maybe whatever you're doing, even if you do stop the heparin drip, because sometimes you have to stop it for an hour because the PTT is just way too high and it needs to be brought back down. And then when you restart it, it's still too high, and you're like, we're risk for bleeds. Like, we're risking a lot of things here with our patients, so let's call the doctor. And so those are things that you need to recognize. But as well as having your protocol there, you can always call your doctor, your NP, or whoever is on call for that day or night. But at the same time, just know your protocol, because there's been so many times where it was like, go by protocol, hang up in face. And I was like, oh, that's right. Like, I'm an ICU nurse. There are standard orders for all this stuff that I'm asking about. But I've gotten better at it. And so I'm so grateful for the experience, but also, just not being babied. I used to be babied a lot, y'all, and that's what stunted my growth. And so, yeah, it's a tough world out here. Yeah, sometimes they can be so cruel and mean. There's definitely nurse bullying at its finest, and sometimes you just gotta, let it roll off your shoulders, because at the end of the day, we all know we had to get through those doors when we were young. Like, when we maybe only had one year experience, maybe started off in the ICU right out of nursing school, but we all had to start at ground, like, day one. So at this point, like, the nurse bullying, I don't know why it's still present. I can't see why it's still present, especially with the shortages we have going on. And a lot of people that are starting in places that they don't really desire, so they quit and go where they really desire. And so that really shorthands a lot of the units and stuff. And so my thing is, like, why bully someone? They're grown, number one. That's the only way they can work, is because they're grown. But number two, if you just aren't really liking the personality or characteristics of a person, my thing is, pray for that person, but also you have to recognize yourself in those issues, because there was times where you needed help. There was times where, it just wasn't clicking for you, and you wanted someone to be kind to you and show you what to do and tell you, hey, this is just how it's done. Let's do it this way. This is, just, even if you just got to be short and say, look at the protocol. It is what it is. And I take it with a grain of salt, because I'd rather you respond than not respond. But if your response is not, what I thought it would be, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not, because to me, it's about the patient. But there are a lot of sensitive people out here that have gone through a lot. And I wouldn't necessarily baby, like, anybody know my mama? We wouldn't babied. And so it was like, because I was kind of raised tough, I kind of have tougher skin. But there are some people that just was nurtured like a newborn kitten. And I love that for them, because that's what I do for mine. That's what I do for my babies. And so they are just, just little kittens. And so I get it. And so sometimes those harsh words can be like cutting you to pieces, because you're like, what did I do to you? Like, what did I do? And at this point, it's not necessarily you. It's just that it may be the shift may be going bad. They may not have the time to be soft and cuddly. And we just have to take it with a grain of salt and move on, and just know that, okay, she said what she said, he said what he said, and we're moving on. But it can be offensive. and a lot of people do quit because of the environment. Like, it's hard to survive in a nursing environment. It just is. It is. But when you have the hand of Jesus on you, you just don't let any old thing. We're at war in the spirit all the time. And so I can tell when somebody's spirit is just not right. And I'm in my spirit praying because hell is hot, y'all. Hell is hot, and I'm not trying to go there, nor do I want anybody to go there. So I'm quickly like, whatever it is, Jesus, just work it out for them. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it could be, but work it out for them, because you can destroy and have blood on your hands and you not even know it. You can have all the money in the bank, but you can still go to hell because your heart isn't right towards God. And I'm going to just be honest, like, Jesus didn't die on that cross for you not to forgive. And so even on my side of things, even when sometimes I feel hurt, like people come at me sideways, I'm like, you know what, Lord, it ain't even worth it. Bless them anyways. Whatever the situation is, work it out for them anyway. That's growth, y'all. That's growth in the spirit. That's where you just got to learn to let things go. You just got to learn to let God handle it, because he is a true just judge. And we don't see behind the scenes. We don't know what this person's dealing with. But even if they're at their highest point, even if, it's just they taken the job, as though they are God themselves, it only takes one word for God to knock us on our knees. So I just thank God I'm on the right side of Jesus. Because listen, he's been taking everything from me at points in time. So, I'm just so grateful for who I am in Christ, but who he is, I'm grateful, because I could have stayed down there and I could have been an example for all the ones what not to do. But God just, dusted me off, and he made me a better person. He made me a godly woman, y'all, a good mother. And so this is why, sometimes it may take me a little second to come back on here and say some stuff. But honestly, it's because I'm just doing the Lord's will. I'm just trying to do all that I can for Jesus until this time is up. Because we need to be found working in the field when he comes back. If he looks over in the bushes and he looks over in the field and he see you playing around and doing stuff, you just got caught up. Now, it doesn't mean that Jesus don't love you. It doesn't mean that, none of us get distracted. We all got lunch breaks and stuff, but there's so many things that needs to be done on this side that hasn't been done yet. Prophecy is not all the way fulfilled, but we don't want to be on the wrong side of Jesus when he comes back. I promise you. There's too many dreams that he brings to me that I just don't want to be on the wrong side of Jesus. And I pray that for, everyone around me, for those that are truly trying to live for Christ, and for those that have no idea who he is. I pray they learn who he is through me. I pray they see how humble he is through me. I pray they see the peace and joy that he has for them through me. There's a light that needs to be shining. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter where you work at. It doesn't matter what title you have. At the end of the day, God is the only one that has the highest title, and there is no one that's going to go before him. Ain't nobody coming after him either. So I thank you. I thank y'all for the channel. I thank you for listening. And I know that some of this can be kind of hard to hear sometimes, but truth is the truth. And once it cuts you in and comes on out, it's healing you in the process. And so the truth is what it is. So, I'm going to be up a little while. But y'all just pray my strength in the Lord, y'all. Y'all know how I am. Pray my strength in the Lord. Y'all have a good night.